Good morning. My name is Anna Peeler, and I will be focusing on thwarting the rise of anti-Semitism and lack of education surrounding the Holocaust through construction of memorials in the U.S. During the 1940s, countless groups of people were displaced and forcibly removed from their home. This included, but was not limited to, Jews, people with disabilities, and people of the queer community. Many groups were driven to exile, while others endured mass deportation, and some fled as refugees, seeking safety. After World War II, the memory of the Holocaust was dispersed and lingered in silence. It took nearly 2 decades for it to be named as it remained largely unnamed and unspoken and unacknowledged as a source of trauma and crime for over 2 decades. Anti-Semitism and Holocaust ignorance are sharply rising. For example, in the US, 66% of people don't know what the Holocaust is. Additionally, 2023 saw a record high of 8,873 anti-Semitic incidents, which is the highest since 1979, and that is up 140%. For example, in New York, anti-Semitic acts account for 54% of total hate crimes, which includes, but is not limited to, incidents, felonies, felony assaults, misdemeanors, and 1 assault. This will be combated through affordable, engaging, accessible, and interactive memorials that will be funded by the local government to convey the gravity of this event. They will be placed in areas with high rates of anti-Semitism. To determine the types of memorials that will be built, we will be looking at different memorials created in Germany that are effective in taking those strategies into the U.S. And of memory in our democracy, Colin Powell argues that memorials serve as symbols of our democracy. In this quote, he says they teach us about the ideas that unite us in our diversity, the values that sustain us in times of trial, and the dreams that inspire generation after generation of ordinary Americans to perform extraordinary acts of service. This basically means that it educates us about our past, it unites us in diversity, it strengthens our values, and it inspires. This enforces the idea that memorials are essential to educating Americans about the Holocaust. The first memorial we will be looking at is the Anne Frank House, and this is the Anne Frank House. It shows the secret rooms where Anne and her family lived, which includes her diary room. It basically shares about her powerful story, about escaping and hiding from persecution. It educates viewers on her history, but it costs money to enter and it requires reservations weeks in advance, making it inaccessible for many people. The memorials in the United States need to ensure that all people can enter and learn about the Holocaust, so people of all socioeconomic can be educated about past atrocities. The next memorial we will be looking at is the Memorial to the Murdered Jews of Europe, which aims to represent past crimes accurately. It is made of 2,711 slabs arranged uniquely to create an abstract piece of art. Some critics argue that it is overly abstract and doesn't represent past crimes accurately because of it being abstract, while other critics argue that since it only includes Jewish victims, it is a form of discrimination by not representing all victims of the Holocaust. Even so, it is very effective because it provides a place for reflection and shows Germany's attempt at confronting its history. We must consider possible controversies like this when constructing memorials in the United States that we can accurately represent the Holocaust. The last memorial we will be looking at is the Stolperstein Holocaust Memorial, which is an example of small but adequate memorials. There are bronze squares located around Berlin and other parts of Europe commemorating individual victims of the Holocaust. Some memorials include places like Auschwitz next to the victim's name to represent their place of death. It not only is effective in educating about Holocaust victims, but it educates about all Holocaust victims, not only Jews, and it has an interactive aspect for those looking for the memorials throughout Berlin, because there's not just one place where it is put throughout Berlin so people can walk around and look for it. With high rates of anti-Semitism, it would be best to build the memorials as soon as possible. Even so, constructing them takes time and money. To combat this as best as possible, the local government will fund the memorials, and they will be placed in areas with high rates of anti-Semitism. For example, of it taking a while, it took 17 years on how best to commemorate 6 million Jews to build the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe. Another issue that may arise is the fact that the Holocaust did not happen in the U.S., so creating memorials similar to the Stolperstein Memorial may be hard, considering that the The Stolperstein memorials often reside where the place the victim lived or their place of death. To combat this, the memorials won't have the victim's name, but instead it will have facts about the Holocaust placed in areas with high rates of anti-Semitism. Holocaust memorials play an essential role in educating people about past atrocities. To thwart the rise of anti-Semitism and lack of education surrounding the Holocaust, memorials must be built in the U.S. similar to the Stolperstein Holocaust Memorial by being small, manageable, affordable, and educating the severity of the Holocaust. They will be similar to the Memorial to the Murder Jews of Europe by providing a place for reflection and respect, and it will be similar to the Anne Frank House because it will be educational and it will highlight the severity of the Holocaust. In conclusion, by constructing bronze squares throughout the cities with high rates of anti-Semitism funded by the local government, people will understand the severity of this event so it can be remembered and not repeated.
Thank you, Anna. I am going to ask you 2 questions.
Okay.
First, such a big topic. What information did you gather that you found interesting or compelling but did not include in your presentation?
I had more like statistics about other countries and the lack of education about the Holocaust in other countries, which was really compelling. There was one stat, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I think it was like 1 in 20 Germans don't know what the Holocaust is, which is crazy because it happened in Germany. I think I didn't include it because I was just focusing on the U.S., but it would have been impactful to include stats about all of the countries and lack of education surrounding all of the countries because it is very high and very, very bad.
If you had more time to study this, what direction would you go in?
I think I would talk more about how to create the memorials and go more in depth of how you would do it, because I just say it would be funded by the local government, but I don't have it more in depth what platform from the government would fund it and exactly where it would go. I say areas with high rates of anti-Semitism, but where in those areas? I was thinking parks, but I can't really go in depth with that with the lack of time, so I think I would just learn more about the specificity about where to build the memorials.
Mm-hmm. And that was 2 questions, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it was 6:02.
Perfect.
So.